Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Salisha Guy, and I'll talk to you this evening about my efforts to help save the endangered Antillean manatees. My capstone project focused on an analysis of manatee strandings and risk from watercraft collisions in Belize. I'd like to acknowledge my faculty advisors, Dr. Donald Kroll and Dr. Norm Kilpatrick, my practitioner partners, Mrs. Nicole Awil Gomez from the Wildlife Conservation Society of Belize, and Mr. Jamal Galvez from Cedar Shore Alliance. And special mention to Kelly Ziliakos.
Did your PowerPoint freeze?
Seems like.
Do you want me to share my screen and then I'm happy to move it forward for you if that.
Oh, there it goes.
Okay.
It's working now. So I am from Belize, and Belize is a small Central American and Caribbean country and is home to the second largest barrier reef in the world. Belize is also considered to be a biodiversity hotspot. I grew up in inland Belize, and that really influenced my early career decisions to work with terrestrial endangered species. I later migrated to the coast to work in the space of ocean advocacy, but I quickly realized how much I miss working with wildlife. So I started to volunteer with the local manatee group to respond to strandings of dead, injured, and orphaned manatees. Manatees completely stole my heart after I helped to rescue this first little guy. He was found on a deserted beach in Belize, very emaciated, which indicated that he has been starving for at least a few days. Handling this animal made me really realize how gentle manatees are, and also how much stranding is a challenge to the population of this species in Belize. So that really motivated me to want to be even more involved and to help save this species. When I joined the Coastal Science and Policy Program, my platform was endangered species protection, and I chose the Antillean manatee as my focal species, given my previous volunteer experience with the species, but also because manatees are very important coastal species and they are very vulnerable to coastal impacts. Manatees occupy very shallow coastal waters that are rich with seagrass habitat and mangroves. As the only herbivorous marine mammals in our waterways, manatees have a very specialized role in the ecosystem. As sea cows, manatees consume a large quantity of seagrass on a daily basis, and this really drives the productivity of seagrass ecosystems, making manatees have a very important ecological value. Manatees in Belize also have a very important economic value, because tourists travel from all over the world to come to Belize to see these endangered mermaids in their natural habitat. And I say mermaids because manatees were what sailors mistook mermaids for in the past. So they really contribute a lot to our economy. Manatees also have a very important cultural value. A species that was once heavily hunted in Belize is now considered to be a species of pride and joy, and really a part of our cultural heritage. Antillean manatees are protected globally, and internationally, they're protected, they're listed as endangered by the IUCN, which is the International Union for Conservation of Nature. They're also listed as CITES Appendix 1, which is the Convention on International Trade of Endangered Species. Regionally, manatees are protected by the Special Protected Areas and Wildlife Protocol, and manatees have been identified as a species of conservation priority throughout the Caribbean. In Belize, manatees are protected under the Fisheries Resources Act of 2020. I spent the summer of last year in Florida at the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, working alongside senior marine biologists and veterinarians, responding to marine mammal strandings, and to gain a deeper understanding of manatees, their threats, and strandings in Florida, and also to be acquainted with Florida's techniques and protocols and how to apply those to Belize. Florida manatee and Antillean manatees are similar but different. The Florida manatee is pretty much confined to the southern coast of the United States, while the Antillean manatee historically has a wider range which extends along the coast of Central America, throughout the Caribbean, and the northern coast of South America. However, the Antillean manatee has been considered locally extinct throughout most of its range, mainly due to intense hunting pressures in the past. Today, Belize have been identified as the last stronghold for the Antillean manatees throughout its range, with the last regional aerial survey conducted in Mesoamerica. Approximately 70% of all the sightings were in Belize. And it is believed that Belize has a higher density of manatees, mainly due to the quality and quantity of habitat available to them. So some of the key conservation needs for the Antillean manatees in Belize include an accurate abundance estimate of the population, and a better understanding of the population trends and the viability of the population, and proper identification of the spatially explicit threats and the impacts of those threats to the population. Initially, I was very interested in analyzing the first two, but unfortunately, the data does not currently exist in Belize for us to do that. So my research really focused on the latter. For years, it has been assumed that watercraft is the greatest threat to manatees in Belize, but this assumption has never been tested. So the aim of my capstone project was to create the first model to assess the risk of watercraft collisions to manatees in Belize. So some of the specific objectives of my project was to, one, determine if there's a relationship between watercraft strandings and the number of boats in Belize. Two, to identify any spatial and temporal variations of strandings. And three, to estimate a density of manatees in Belize. So the approach that I took was to analyze 25 years of historic data, so dating back to 1995. And the data includes aerial survey, which looks at the minimum count of manatees and the distribution of manatees. Strandings, which looks at the cause of mortality and the location. And boat registration, which we use as a surrogate for boat traffic in Belize. And we incorporated these three data sets into a model that we created to assess the risk of watercraft collision. So what we then did was to create 12 analysis zones along the coast of Belize. And within each of these zones, we assigned aerial sightings in blue and strandings in red and boat registration numbers to each of these zones. And we calculated a stranding incidence within each of these zones. And a stranding incidence is pretty much the number of manatees that strand as a result of watercraft collision per the number of manatees sighted within each of those zones. We then ran a regression analysis to see if there's any relationship between stranding incidents and the number of registered boats within those zones. And our analysis shows that there is sufficient evidence to support that, yes, there is a significant relationship between the two. As the number of registered boats increase, so does the stranding incidents across these 12 zones in Belize. We also looked at the spatial and temporal trends of watercraft strandings, and our analysis shows that strandings are not uniform over space, with the zones of concern being zones D, K, and L. Our analysis also shows that strandings are not uniform over time, with majority of the strandings occurring over the past 10 years. We were also interested in calculating the density for manatees in Belize. So what we did was to overlay the 12 analysis zones onto a habitat map of Belize, and the habitat types that we looked at included mangroves, seagrass, and lagoons and rivers. And then within each of these zones, we calculated the density of manatees per available habitat. And our analysis shows that the zones with the highest manatee density are zones D, F, and K. It's also important to highlight that of all the manatee aerial sightings in Belize, 75% of those sightings were in seagrass habitat, which re-emphasizes the importance of seagrass to manatees. So taking into consideration the risk of watercraft collision and density, our analysis really highlights zones D and K as the two zones of high conservation priority. So what is the impact of watercraft threat to the Belize Antillean manatee population? At this moment, we don't have all the necessary data to really look at that into details. But what we do know is that the Belize Antillean manatee population is really small. It is approximately 11% the size of the Florida manatee population. Additionally, watercraft stranding accounts for 20% of all strandings in Florida, while in Belize, it accounts for 26% of all the strandings. Florida has identified watercraft strandings as the greatest threat to the Florida manatee population. So it is quite possible that watercraft too has a potentially significant threat to the Belize Antillean manatee population. So what do we do with these new analysis and this science? Well, we applied those science to conservation action. How? We developed a conservation strategy for the Antillean manatee population in Belize that is targeted at reducing the threat of watercraft collisions in Belize. Some of the main deliverables of my project includes a manuscript to share this new knowledge with the wider scientific community, a summary of this manuscript to be shared with the government of Belize, and a conservation action plan that is really informed by the science outlined in the manuscript. And in this conservation action plan, we recommend specific actions to be taken, particularly in the zones of high priority. Some of the potential actions included in the conservation action plan are: 1, to modify boating regulations, particularly in shallow seagrass habitats; 2, to restrict boating activities to specific boat lanes and channels so that manatees can learn to avoid those areas; and 3, to institute temporary closures, particularly at manatee aggregation sites, example at freshwater mouth and river sources, because manatees need access to fresh water. So what are the next steps? I have been in dialogue with the Belize Fisheries Department, and they have indicated that my project is extremely timely, as they have recently been given the mandate to protect manatees in Belize earlier this year. They are currently in the process of drafting new manatee-specific regulations, and they're really trying to see how best they can incorporate the analysis from my project to help inform those new regulations. Additionally, the department has also indicated to me that at this point, they don't have the necessary funds allocated for manatee protection. So I will be assisting the department in applying for grants so that we can actually implement the recommendations outlined in the Conservation Action Plan. Another exciting opportunity is that I have been offered an employment opportunity with my practitioner partner, Sea to Shore Alliance. And this new employment will really allow me to have an active role in marine mammal conservation in Belize. Throughout this capstone process, I have really expanded my personal capacity to learn even more about manatees. I have become even more knowledgeable about marine mammal strandings. I have gained a deeper understanding and appreciation for statistical analysis, interpretation and application of those analyses, particularly to the field of conservation. And I have also become even more literate in using the R programming language. Also, I have also expanded my network through the connections that I've made in Florida with the folks that I've met last year. We have maintained really strong connections, and I've communicated with them several times, and they've been very responsive. So I think that that connection is a really promising one for international collaboration between Belize and Florida and on manatee conservation, and also for the exchange of knowledge. With that, I would really like to thank all the partners who shared data, support, and advice with me. I especially want to thank the Coastal Science and Policy Program, especially Anne and Sarah and my fellow cohort mates. Please feel free to contact me if you would like any further detail about my project. I now welcome your questions. Thank you.
Great job, Celicia.